Zoom in on global affairs with insightful debates and exclusive interviews. This is World Insight.
Hello and welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei. The World Economic Forum Annual Meeting 2026 wrapped up last week in the snowy town of Davos. Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng delivered a special address suggesting that no one should have the privilege over the others and the world should not go back to the rules of the jungle. He made it clear that there are no winners in tariff and trade wars either. After that, French President Emmanuel Macron on Tuesday drew attention for his stern rebuke of U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to tariff 8 European countries opposed to his efforts to take over Greenland. On Wednesday, the state leaders and tech entrepreneurs continued to speak at the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum, including U.S. President Donald Trump. Jean-Pascal Tricoire is chairman of Schneider Electric. As a leading European industrial tech company in electrification and automation, his organization is deeply engaged in China and other parts of the global market. He shares his insights on the renewal of European industries and how China is blazing the trail for global innovation. Lao Zhao, good to see you.
Very good to see you, as always.
Tell me more about whether the China approach and suggestions fit into your future growth agenda.
What China has defined with the 15th five-year plan is very clear as a direction. And we know where a company like Schneider can contribute. We can help our partners, our customers in China, communities in China, to get cleaner power, to get digitized, and to get the best of automation. And this is what we have been doing in China for the past 40 years. I had the privilege to start Schneider in China a long time ago, and I've seen our operations flourishing, but more important so, the relationship with numerous partners all over China who are day in, day out deploying our technologies.
Of course, the world is getting ever more fragmented, apparently. So what does that mean for your China operation? What does that mean for your cooperation with China for the rest of the world?
Look, we had that vision from the beginning that China is so large and it has so many specific needs and it has so many talents that we should develop in China for China and then for the world. But what it means is that today, not only we have 28 factories manufacturing in China with Chinese suppliers, products, systems, solutions, digital solutions that we sell to our customers, but also we have 10 R&D centers for innovation. And that innovation is first focused on the China market, developing a digital space, a power space, which is adapted to China's specificities, but also taking those offers to the world. So in a, what you say, a fragmented or bifurcated world, China, Schneider China, is a very autonomous company, able to develop in terms of R&D, industrialize, sell and service all the products and solutions which are the most adapted to the China market.
Very interesting. So that's an arrangement recently made?
That's something we put into place 25 years ago. You know, when you want to develop R&D, it's not something that you do that is operational the next day. You need to attract the talents, you need to train people on the best of your technologies, and then they will innovate. So every investment we do in China is for the next decades. We are opening at the moment 2 new factories. Yes. They will be here for the next decades. When you open an R&D center, it will be there for a long time, and we wish it to develop and to flourish and to be there forever. And then you develop partnerships, and partnerships are also long-term partnerships. But this doesn't stop the borders of China. As China is developing abroad along the Belt and Road, we are carrying those partnerships outside of China. And we are doing more partnerships with Chinese companies outside of China.
You hear policy punchlines from different parts of the world. For example, here in Europe, there has been talk about the Europe independence.
Yeah.
In China, there has been talk about indigenous innovation.
Yeah.
In the United States, it's been talking about national security and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's my words. So how do you see these different rhetorics coming from different regions? And how do you, as a global company, try to work the system together so systematically it can work for you?
Look, it's Europe is big, China is big. So by definition, needs in Europe, needs in China that we are originated from different histories are not the same. So if you want to be relevant to your customers, you have to be fast because customers want a solution for yesterday. They have no patience to wait for something that would take time to be adapted to their needs. So for us, would it be in Europe? Would it be in the US? But more so in China, which is moving so fast, what's important is speed on the very close contact with our customers. So we do it with local teams who make local decisions and who have their own capabilities to develop things. Now, if you look across Europe and China, what strikes me is that we have very common needs. We don't have natural resources, fossil fuels, right? So the natural need or the natural direction is to go electrical. At the end of the day, if you believe, and we believe that the future is electric, and China believes definitely that the future is electric, then there are a lot of directions for innovation that are put in or that are gathering our forces in the same direction. I also see that both China and Europe are very committed to decarbonization and sustainability, reconcile progress on sustainability for all. And this is probably the challenge of our generation. And what's exciting is that now technology, electrification, and digitization allow us to achieve more while using less of resources and actually being energy positive. And this is something we profoundly share as a direction between China, I would say Asia, and Europe. So great terrain of common innovation and common collaboration. And at the end of the day, climate change is not China or Europe. It's a common challenge and probably one of the biggest challenges of our generation.
Beyond the headlines, this is World Insight.
That's Jean-Pascal Tricoire, Chairman of Schneider Electric. Could business cooperation between China and Europe forge a new way forward? As a seasoned business person and observer, here's what he said to me during the exclusive interview. You developed your company in Asia, in China, but at the same time, you are certainly running all over the world, including here in Europe, where your home base is. How would you interpret the latest challenges Europe as a whole is facing, and what could that be translated into solutions provided by your company or your industry?
Number one, every geography has to change with time, right? Technology is moving, the balance of geopolitics are moving, so Europe is in an intense moment of questioning, of reformatting, of evolution. But it can be said, we can say that of most of the geographies today. Things are changing faster and faster. So Europe doesn't escape that global logic and needs to change. I personally, as a European, think that being Europe is really important because each country in Europe is too small to be relevant in a world of larger and larger countries. And if I look back at history, well, Europe has come a very long way, right? We have one currency. Most of our companies are completely trans-European. Most of our citizens now have a career or life across boundaries. So things have changed a lot. We always complain in Europe, it's probably one of feature of Europeans. There's been a lot of progress on that side. Then on the side of technology, in Europe, I see more integration, more simplicity, less regulation, more space to innovation, and more collaboration with other continents, including China.
Running a business with that nature as you just described, what are some of your suggestions if you are asked to the policymakers? Because right now we still see a lot of obstacles about cooperation.
I don't think there are those many obstacles for those collaborations. I think it takes a coalition of the willings, people who want to do things together. It's very difficult for any company to do by itself all across the world. When we started in China, and it's still the case today, by the way, we operated with a lot of joint ventures. Yeah. And it's still today, and they are very successful. I think for Chinese companies to deploy across the world, it needs that approach of collaborate with local companies. It's clear that for a company like Schneider, we know how to work with Chinese companies. We've been working now for many decades in China, and we have a very large presence in China. We have 28,000 people in China. We are a very large company. We work with thousands of suppliers every day in China. So the capacity to deploy what's done in China outside of the world, I think, is the next phase of our history. Being able to work together outside of our borders on leverage technologies and carry them to customers.
Earlier, I was having a conversation with a leading thinker of technology, including AI. He's been suggesting, he's an American, suggesting that Europe should have its own large language models, of its own data centers, energy supplies and everything of its own. Of course, that's his proposal. What about someone like you who has been in your business in the critical part of the global supply chain now, and obviously feeling very proud as a European citizen? What do you think is the solution out pragmatically, step by step, for Europe?
Well, we have nice pieces of technology in Europe, right? Most of the supply chains today run on European software, which has become a reference in the world. And we have also our own AI companies which are developing, right? So I've no doubt that with the number of graduates and people that we have in Europe, you're going to see more models of any sort developing in Europe. Now, I don't see a world which will be completely fragmented. I think there is no point. Some models are open source. Actually, it's been the principal or the preferred avenue for China. And when it's open source, I mean, why not use it and create the next layer of differentiation for each vertical?
That's my exclusive interview with Jean-Pascal Tricoire, Chairman of Schneider Electric. This is World Insight. Still to come, China's economy did grow at an expected 5% last year. So how much growth potential are we looking at this year? Answers from a global consumer product company CEO next.
As you sip your morning coffee, we transport you from the sea of tulips in the countryside to the exciting moments of table tennis worlds.
France 3-0 to win the men's team title at table tennis.
As you commute in the hustle and bustle of rush hour traffic, we guide you to navigate from intricacies of global markets,
International Monetary Fund has
tech revolutions, to the El Nino-triggered fires.
Says over 90 active fires.
As you gather around a community event, we provide you the vibrant sounds on different topics, such as how AI empowers education,
that provide teachers and students.
What does Loong or the Chinese dragon mean to the Chinese people?
Symbolizing great power, good luck, and strength.
Why live stream shopping is gaining popularity in Brazil.
Entrepreneurs are seeking to establish a strong presence in the Brazilian market.
CGTN Radio, your constant companion to connect people through sharing insights, interviews, and opinions that help us to see the world. Together with CGTN Radio, hear the difference. You can download the CGTN app to get more valued information.
On the sidelines of this year's World Economic Forum annual meeting, Eugene Williamson, the CEO of International Beverages with PepsiCo, shares his views on the potential of the Chinese market and China's incentive policies for domestic consumption, and what does it mean for businesses elsewhere in the world. We see a more fragmented world, apparently. So how, when you are doing international work, make sure that it can be efficiently done to deal with the latest adjustments?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're seeing a lot of interaction between geopolitics, economics, and technology. Now, we operate across the world in many different countries, and for us, it's very important that we always stay in tune with what's happening locally. And so wherever we do business, we embed ourselves locally. We make sure that we understand the consumers very well. So there's a lot of effort that we put in making sure that our insights are always up to date. and that we innovate and also drive consumer engagement, which is relevant for our local consumers. Now, also in the case of China, we've been operating there for over 40 years now, and we have a great and local footprint in China that we're very proud of.
The Chinese Vice Premier at the World Economic Forum has been talking about China taking efforts to encourage domestic consumption, and China not only the global factory, but also the biggest global market can be. So how do you see that is related to your work there? What is the description that you have for Chinese consumers, their taste?
Well, first of all, let me say that I personally really admire what has been happening in China over the last few decades. And so I've been going to China for probably almost 20 years now. And it's really remarkable to see how the country, of course, has developed, but also especially the innovation that's happening in China. Some of the zones, so Shenzhen obviously was an early zone, and then if you see how that further has developed, absolutely amazing. And China now leading in many areas in technology, of course in renewable energy, which is absolutely remarkable. Now, as I look at our business and the consumer products that we sell and market in China, for us it's indeed very important that the domestic market grows, but also that consumption is being stimulated with it, because obviously that will also help drive our categories and our business. So in that sense, we're fully supportive of consumption-led growth, and we will try to do our best also to further help support that growth in a responsible way.
Now, how would you describe the evolving trends and tastes of Chinese consumers? They say every few years it's almost like a generation in China. But now things are becoming more complex as we speak. So how would you describe these latest changes and trends you are watching closely?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that China changes almost every couple of months, and the speed of innovation in China is absolutely remarkable and is amongst the top or the highest in the world from what I see in our categories. Chinese consumers are very discerning. There's a lot of demand also for more functionality, whether it's in food and whether it's in beverages. There's also a lot of focus that Chinese consumers put on the aesthetics, and whether it's how the product is being packaged, the design of the label. And then, of course, there is, which is very unique to China, the digital ecosystem in terms of how you engage with consumers, which requires also a lot of sophistication and a lot of localization with the key opinion leaders at the local market level to ensure that you engage in a relevant way with consumers. So it is a market that is actually very, very complex. There's very good and strong competition, and there's a speed of innovation that honestly I'm not seeing in many other markets across the world. So it keeps us on our toes, and of course we try to do a great job in terms of innovating, understanding our consumers, and coming out with great tasting beverages and foods products for the Chinese consumer.
You see the competition and cooperation. You also see how, as you said, the AI Plus and Digital Plus has impacting on the local consumers' awareness of a brand and also their engagement with brands. How do you, as a company with long tradition, as you said, in China 40 years and plus, so how does that work for you in a way? And how do you see the competition in these areas, like in coffee? Yeah. You know, Starbucks vis-a-vis other Chinese coffee brands, or in milk tea. That is the big battleground, right? Yeah. So how are you drawing some inspirations from all of these latest stories?
And in our category, so liquid refreshment beverages, there is a great mix of local competition and global players. And I think ultimately what it comes down to is ensuring that you really understand the consumers, and because of course there's not one consumer, there's very different segments of consumers. There's different segments based on the tiering of the cities, the geographies, gender, age profile, and so forth. And making sure that we segment the market well and have an offering that is relevant for different groups of consumers. Now, how we do that, we do a lot of also experimentation with consumers, and we've been able to come out also with products that are specifically for China and actually have become a hit for us in China. And we're looking at leveraging those products now also for other markets in Southeast Asia or across Asia.
How does that work?
Well, we have in China, in Shanghai, we have an R&D facility that is primarily for the Chinese market. It's a great facility, but that facility also supports our Asia-Pac business. So we can leverage innovation from China for other markets across Asia.
Ever thinking about that can also benefit the U.S. market, even though your job description does not include that, but you know?
No, for sure. I think there's a lot of trends in China that are relevant for other markets, whether it's West Europe, whether it's the US. And as I said, Chinese consumers are very discerning consumers, both in terms of taste, sophistication, the aesthetics. And I think that is something that we can really learn from for many other markets across the world.
Now, the concept of health, longevity, fitness, has been ever evolving, not only internationally, particularly in China. You just see, over the past 10 years, how many people are interested in marathons. Just as one of those examples. So, how in the beverage industry, in the food industry, look at that, especially in China, when there's a tradition of longevity, there's a tradition of Chinese medicine, and the list goes on. How do you see this can be better combined?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So we're operating in functional beverages with Gatorade, but we're currently in the process, and you'll see that soon in the market as well, really refining Gatorade in a much more locally relevant way. And then beyond Gatorade, there is a big opportunity for us also to play in a broader array of functional beverages, taking inspiration from some of the things that you mentioned, whether it's traditional Chinese medicine, or whether it's also some of the trends that really people have picked up, not just in China, but also in other parts of the world when it comes to longevity and how one takes care of their health. These will be rolled out very soon in China, so I cannot yet share with you exactly what they are. But stay tuned, and in the next couple of months, you'll see them.
I'll check with you next time you're in China.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. There has been a lot of different interpretations of the impacts on health when it comes to cola, all kinds of cola. You have also seen, even from the latest news, the Secretary of Health in the United States talking about how a president could survive on McDonald's and also cola. So how do you see the most important product of yours now in the evolving debate related to health?
Yeah. I mean, as PepsiCo, we've been on a journey for many, many years, evolving our portfolio. And ultimately, as I said, it's very important that we always follow also what consumers are looking for. So we've been reducing the amount of added sugar in our products consistently over many years, also in China. And then, as I said, it's also important to offer a broad array of products across the portfolio. And I enjoy my Pepsi Zero Sugar every single day with a lot of pleasure. Great tasting product.
Okay, practice what you preach. That's it is. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. China and the U.S. I know you are not in geopolitics. You're not a politician, but any businesses operating globally, operating these two important markets, have to come to realize what is the reality of this relationship. How do you digest on a daily basis since last year? For example, the tariff war, trade war, and then good negotiations, coming to consensus, likely to have a year of exchanges between the two countries. What does that mean for your industry, and what kinds of input you can share with those in the policy-making process?
Yeah, I mean, if I look at, let's say, the engagements that we have with governments around the world, it's always focused on partnerships. Yeah? So we believe in partnerships, and of course, for us as a business that operates across the world, it is important that we have good partnerships with the broader ecosystem, with governments, with other institutions in society. And there's a lot of effort actually that we put into that in our company. Yeah, and that's something that personally I also spend a lot of time on across the world, from the GCC to Asia to Latin America. Yeah.
That's what I really want to learn something from you. How could you go one step forward before others realize, what might be the reality? Think think beforehand.
It's a combination of insights or data. So we use a lot of data in terms of what's happening with consumers, but also what's happening in terms of broader trends. But then at the end of the day, there's always also an element of intuition. And that's what I honestly admire in a lot of your very successful local entrepreneurs in China. Many of them actually have built very successful businesses based on deep understanding, but also deep and bold intuition, and then making a bold decision to go after it. And it's something that I really admire in some of the local entrepreneurs that you have in China. And there's quite a few that are very successful.
Yes, indeed. Such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for being with us. And that is all the time we have for today. If you'd like to know more, search World Insight or check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on X and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei. Thanks for being with us. Bye for now.